I'm not scared, because I'm like, podcasting has always shifted in people's minds of what they thought it was. We're just in a very specific type of era, but I don't think that everything is permanent.
The train has passed us.
Yeah.
Fuck the train.
Yeah.
We don't want to be on that train anyway.
When I started working in podcasting, I, of course, looked at it from the marketing point of view. You start to learn these little tricks, and you do feel like it's less about the art and more about like what's going to do well or what is going to get the most hits, good or bad.
James, it's really great to have you on as like our first guest.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
I ran into you at a bar, and like that day the podcast came together, and I was like,
Yeah.
you should be on it first. And you're like, hell yeah, let's do it. And here we are.
Yeah, I always love doing stuff with you, man. I always feel like you have such a smart mind with how to approach this industry and like everything you do. So like, I'll be truthful. I don't know too much about this show, but I am so down for whatever like this conversation takes us, you know?
Yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with the industry, and it was mostly hate when I met with Dane. Dane's one of the only people I ever met in the industry that I didn't roll my eyes at immediately and be like, that guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. We were both kind of like, should we, you know, you just are like, we know so much about this thing that maybe we could try doing it.
I also like wanted to do a podcast for a minute. For Stella, as like the outsider of the group, I think presents like a really interesting, like outsider to our like industry. Like
I was gonna say, yeah.
You know our industry. It's like,
do.
It's nice to have
a little too much.
It's nice to have an outsider and not an insider to that space.
Oh, 100%. But wait, I want to come rolling your eyes at everyone. What made you roll your eyes at people?
Well, I was going, oh God, that's what I was doing that the whole time. I was meeting with network execs who didn't understand what the fuck they were talking about, and they would all apply TV logic and the formula to podcasting, which is not the same thing. And then they would be like, let's bring in a Mr. Beast's. Like they were just confused, and a lot of it was like, we don't know what a podcast is. And instead of being curious, they were just like, no, we're gonna make it this thing that we know, and then anyone who's saying it's something different, we're gonna ignore and not listen to. And it was just like, it felt like a bunch of old white men in suits that didn't want to let go.
Oh my God. Like striking a chord, like right here with me. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll just say yeah.
I kind of want to start with Moonface, and I want to be honest with you. I hadn't listened to it until this last week. And that's just because I think I didn't know you at the time when it came out, and like for me, like podcast listening was very much in like the business marketing podcasts and just trying to download information. So like I think when Moonface came out, and I was very like connected to that like audio fiction community, but I listened to it this week.
Wait, was it like you were connected to that audio fiction community when it came out, and you're like, I'm like, this is too close?
I have aphantasia where I can't visualize things. So like audio can be difficult for me. Like audio fiction can be difficult for me because it's like I'm not constructing an image in my brain as far as like what's happening.
I have this. What did you just call it?
Aphantasia.
Okay. I have that too, I think.
Do you really?
I think so. I have trouble with audio. Well, we can get into it. I want you to continue.
Yeah.
But listening to Moonface, I got emotional several times. Yeah. And it's like, it's so good. And I just want to like congratulate you for getting, and I think this is actually a huge deal because Apple does really care editorially about who they spotlight. But being named, that podcast being named one of 20 podcasts that they celebrated.
Hey.
It's like a really big deal.
It's huge.
Thanks, guys.
It's Apple.
And it makes sense. Like, and then my follow-up questions are like, how did you get Big Thief licensed that song? Is it licensed? We can cut this if it's not.
Oh yeah. I'm down. Yeah, no, they are licensed. I mean, because when I was making this show, this was like, I started reaching out to people in like 2018. The show came out like 2019. And I mean, like the whole premise of it was just, at the time, there's a lot of fiction audio that was very genre forward. And the stuff that I was like consuming at the time was very quiet indie dramas. and that's what I wanted in the space. So it's like, it feels surreal that like even now people talk about it, and you know, Apple would give it love because it just like that. I made that because nobody was taking me seriously as a creator. Like every time I'd knock on a door, be like, hey, you want to hear this pitch for a show? And everyone's like, who are you? You like, we don't want to place a bet on you. So I had to place a bet on myself. And, you know, one of the big things for me was like, all right, like if I like these quiet indie dramas and I want bigger exposure, but I don't have the budget, like one thing that I love that like prestige television was doing at that time was they're getting, you know, big indie bands and then having them either in the intro and outro. So if you think of the show Weeds long ago, I think that was Genji Cohen who made that. Yeah, an amazing show. And then at the top of the series, every single episode, it was a cover of the song Little Houses, Little Boxes. But an indie band would just do a cover every single episode. So I was like, how can I bring that energy? But I don't have money, so that's
when you hire friends.
Yeah, that's when you hire friends. Yeah.
A part of me is like, you know, the cast, the music, the like, it's like, oh, like low key put on some like, you know, like they're now all household names.
Yeah, I got super lucky with that. Like Joel Kim Booster at the time, I think he was like just starting the NBC show Sunnyside.
I like checked his IMDb. I'm like, all right, what happened before? And I was like, okay, like a lot of things happened, you know, posts or like.
I mean, it's because of Moonface. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I know.
No. I mean, Joel Kim Booster.
But like you had your finger on like the pulse for like.
Did that happen?
I love that. Yeah.
It's like you can't say that, but it's like after that they blow up. That's happened to me a couple times, and I'm like,
yeah. I knew it.
I saw something.
I knew it. I saw it.
Yeah. I was saying to Dane when I first came in, I was like, so I come from comedy mostly, and that's a totally different thing. And so it's like listening to Moonface. It was like, how are these the same? How are these both podcasts? Like, what the hell is a podcast if these two things are both considered podcasts? And it opened my mind in a way because I've always been sort of anti-fiction.
Totally fine. You could say it out loud. I feel like it would make you feel good.
I'm sorry.
Just say it.
Partially because I'm really like into audiobooks, and so I'm like, what's the difference really?
Sure.
But there's a huge difference, and I'm so sorry that I said that. It made a huge difference just listening to that, and I was like, holy shit. Like, I'm cynical.
No, I think the cynicism's good because, like, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of audio fiction, especially in big studios, is made like an audio book. A lot of times, the talent will come in separately and they'll read their lines within, like, a day. And ultimately, in the end, for them, you know, they're not interacting with other actors. So it's just either producer or director just reading lines alongside them. And so what you ultimately get kind of does sound like I can't tell the difference between like an audio fiction show sometimes and like something that Audible will do where it's like a theatrical rereading of like a book that they're doing. I know that those are like a bunch of series that they'll do is they'll take a prominent book and get a bunch of famous actors to read it.
Yeah.
And then they'll sound design it and all that stuff. So you're not wrong.
Okay, thank you for validating me.
Yeah.
But I am wrong in some ways because I enjoyed it, and I think part of it was like, I don't understand how I can enjoy this thing, and it's so funny because I come from my dad worked for NPR, and he used to write stories, and they were all highly produced. Yet why am I so anti, like fiction? I don't know. Audio, I just don't know why, and I need to get over myself.
Well, I mean, there are good ones and there maybe aren't so good ones, and maybe you listen to maybe the not so good ones.
Maybe. I also, it's just interesting to watch everyone try to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the thing about it too is there's a lack of, I mean, this is a thing that I feel like a lot of people have said, and Dane, you've covered it too on Good Tape. It's just like there is a lack of criticism and critique in the industry. So, and I do think that stuff is crucial to make everyone else step up their game.
Yeah.
And yeah, so
except for now.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, back to Moonface. I'm like curious what's Paul up to now in this like?
Oh boy.
In this like, is he still doing it?
Not doing podcasting, not doing public radio. He pivoted. He's like, I'm in marketing now. No, I don't know. I feel like Paul was, okay, let me take a step back. I mean, the reason I chose like that career path too for Paul is that like there was a lot of meta content that was being made and still is with like film and TV.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff where it's like a movie where it's like about someone making a movie or TV show about someone making a TV show.
Yeah.
And podcasting does do that, where they'll have like, you know, I'm a reporter and the tape that you're hearing is like, it's like everyone's trying to make Blair Witch Project. That was at the time. I don't think people are doing that as
They were
much
doing
anymore.
that with like Serial.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but I thought, man, it'd be a lot of fun to make a show that at least looks into this industry in a different way outside of it just being like, you know, this reporter who's reporting something and there's like a ghost and they're trying to follow, you know, the ghost with the recorder. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, Paul, what his journey's out. He's working job to job. He got laid off somewhere, you know?
Yeah. Several times.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
What are you doing now? Sorry.
Sure. I have a company that's called Overtones Media. And so I started it because after Moonface, a lot of people finally were like, hey, what do you want to make next? And I kind of got in a position where I was working full time at Spotify, developing new shows as a producer. And I was like presented with an ultimatum of like, okay, you can stay at Spotify and work on only Gimlet Spotify shows, or if you want to make your own stuff, you got to leave. And I was like, okay, fuck it. I'm just gonna, I'm gonna try to,
great.
let me take this chance on myself and do that.
It's so hard to do.
Yeah. And, but the week that I chose as my end date was in March 2020. And it was like on that Tuesday, we get an all staff email from Daniel Ek, the CEO of Spotify, being like, hey, everyone, you're working from home now. So I was like, oh, I guess I'm starting this journey early. So
also right before, like, I mean, that the only industry that did well in 2020 was podcasting.
You could have milked that a little bit.
Yeah, I know. So I was like, oh man. So, you know, and I remember all my coworkers at the time, they're like, I'm doing nothing. I'm just chilling at home. And I'm like, that was not the best move to leave right then, but it did work out. And so during that time, I got to make my own stuff. And that's why I created this company, was like, I want to hire my own team of people.
Totally.
And that was like a big thing for me, is that, you know, I would be staffed on a show and it came fully staffed. And I kind of view every podcast that's like ongoing, it's almost like opening up a restaurant. I watched the show Top Chef a lot, the cooking competition show. Yeah. They have this one episode and everyone looks forward to it. It's called Restaurant Wars. Where the remaining chefs, you know, they have to compete and they open up a restaurant within 24 hours. And I kind of view podcasting not as Restaurant Wars, but like opening up a restaurant and making sure that you understand the dynamic. Because you, like, those teams on Top Chef, you could have the 4 best chefs who are opening up their own restaurant, and then they end up in the bottom and one of them goes home because they did not have a great dynamic. And I think that's like a thing that is missed in this industry, is when you're staffing up a show, you can have like, all right, we got this senior producer and they have this resume, and we got this editor and they have this resume. But it's like, if people aren't really working together, or if you don't really have the right sort of positions in place, like, it will collapse. And I get exhausted by those shows because, like, you know, when it collapses, you're spending more time trying to course correct. It's more stressful. You don't get paid for that extra stuff. And for me, I kind of always, when I was staffed on a show and like the vibe wasn't right, it, like, I just hated it.
What is that? Because I know exactly what you mean, and it's a really hard to define, but like, it's just I don't know. It's like a vibe disconnect.
Yeah. Egos. A lot of time egos. Sometimes there's not someone who wants to take charge or knows how to run the thing. Like, you always need on a team like someone who's like willing to be organized. If you don't have that one person who's
Dane.
Yeah. He is the one, right?
Yeah.
No, or you're telling him, oh, you got to be organized.
No. He's the one, trust me. He is type A, I'm type Z.
The thing too, I think, in the industry, as it's consolidated and several rounds of layoffs every year, more and more, is that like that middle tier of the industry, and even maybe the upper tier, like, there's no transferring of knowledge and skill. So you have sort of like entrant level like workers and like maybe EPs or executives that are like overworked, and no one in the middle. to sort of figure out. So if you're staffing a project, you probably have, you seem like someone that brings in new people as well as mentors and people who are skilled that are actually like doing the work.
Yeah. You bring up like a really interesting point, because honestly, I think a big key to that of just like you had to work, especially during the pandemic, you had like an influx of shows, an influx of like shops opening. The thing that was missing were people who started in public radio. Because public radio, there's not like a podcasting school to go to like there is with a lot of other entertainment or media centered places. But like public radio was actually that school. And public radio jobs, the people who were attracted to those jobs weren't looking to make money. They were like, this is a cool thing that that I believe in the cause, and I also love to make audio stories. And the reason why I say that it attracted those kinds of people who are more passionate rather than money driven is because they didn't pay a lot.
Because they didn't make any money.
They didn't make any money. They didn't make anything.
Yeah.
And two, you had to learn everything on your own. So a producer or a reporter would have to be from the ground up. You had to learn how to pitch a story. You had to learn how to write. You had to learn how to use Pro Tools or Adobe Audition. Sound design, report it, do interviews, script it. And then ultimately in the end, like sometimes mix and master it too. Sometimes score it if that's kind of the show that you're on, and then you put it out to air. You're like a one-person
Scrappy,
show.
yeah.
Yeah, and like that sort of environment. And the other thing with public radio is like it was always on a clock. There's a deadline. So if you're working on a weekly show, a daily show, like you really had to be quick.
Yeah.
And good.
Well, with that as like the background for a lot of people who got their start in this industry, why is adding video so challenging? Like if they had to learn all of those things and now video is one more thing, it seems like there's like some hesitation or some pushback against like that skill set as the add-on.
I think honestly it's like a mentality thing, and I'll say this from someone who's like was in it as things are changing. The industry, when video was being pushed, this was like a couple years ago. A couple years ago is when there was mass rounds of layoffs. And people and all these companies didn't shut down their podcast studios. They said that they're going to like retool it and like refocus it and reshift it. And ultimately in the end, they chose video. So on top of people losing their jobs, then they were like, okay, and the stuff that we want now is like, you have to learn a new skill.
Right.
So I have to imagine like, it's just exhausting. You're like, I just lost my job. There's not a lot of opportunities anymore. The kinds of stuff that I liked to make, which were more long, like a lot of these people that I was hearing from were long form, highly produced stuff. And the industry was like, okay, that no longer exists. And can you learn a new skill set? And then
TikTok videos.
Yeah, TikTok videos. So it could go on TikTok, go on YouTube, all that stuff. And then it's like, and if you can learn all of this stuff, then like we have a freelance producer position for you. So it's like not even full time. So I don't even think the incentive was really there, and it felt like it's more of a money grab than it was passion. So a lot of these people who were really passionate, I mean, I'll just say me, like I was really passionate about the work of audio, to then for it to just be to have a sidestep and then go, okay, those kinds of shows, we don't want to make them anymore. We want to make like interview shows and stuff that can go up on YouTube and go up on YouTube fast. I'm not passionate about that. So I think it's a passion issue and an exhaustion thing than anything else.
I just don't get how we can take what you're talking about and apply it. Like, my thing has always been with YouTube. It's like everybody makes fun of YouTube. It's embarrassing. YouTubers are embarrassing. Logan, Jake Paul, blah, blah, blah. I was always kind of like, what if we looked at it not like they were cringe, but like we could bring in people who actually have skills and are brilliant and like maybe make it into something different. That was always my mindset going in, where I was like, I'm going to do the opposite of be cynical about this. I also come from a YouTube background, so that might be why. But I was like, why do we have to look at it and be like maybe short form video could be cool if approached from a different angle or different perspective. Like maybe somebody as brilliant as you could make it something cool with it rather than just something silly and stupid.
Yeah, I love this because like honestly, I think like for me, I had such I needed time and space when this shift was happening to make it video. Simply because in my mind, I thought all that meant was one type of show. And what you're hitting at is really interesting because my mind didn't really shift until there's like two things. So, and I'll try to make it brief. But the first is that there's this organization called IMI, and they are based in Austin, Texas, and it's run by these two people, Stuart and Elaine, and their whole goal is they're also looking at this landscape of YouTube and podcasting, and they're also seeing the same thing that the like creators like us are saying, which we're like, okay, the voices that seem to get propped up are the ones that make like really easy, fast content that's like that can be viral on TikTok, and that's just not really the end goal for a lot of us creators. And they were concerned because they're like, well, who's supporting like the people who are trying to do really creative stuff? So they created this thing called IMI Fest where the
independent media initiative, or
it is. Yeah, and they brought YouTubers and podcasters together who wanted to be more artful with their approach. And honestly, going to that was like the first time that I've realized that there was this world of YouTubers who were also making the same stuff that podcasters were doing, as artful, as like groundbreaking, but in YouTube. And the difference though is that they talked about their experience a bit differently. They're like, oh no, YouTube as a platform does support us. Like there's an algorithm in place. Like we can make our stuff. You can find a fan base, like, you know, and it was like stuff when I was watching, like there's this YouTuber named Gawx, Gawx, and he makes these videos where, and like on premise alone, you wouldn't think they'd be as elaborate as they are. But one of his videos was about him moving out of his parents' home and finding his own place in Mexico. And like he documented that journey, but the way he made it look like the Coraline Forjat, like the Substance movie. It's like so highly produced. He's using fog machines. He's using skateboards as like, you know, like dollies. Yeah. And it's like, he'll do like a 3D rendering of his house just like as a quick B-roll thing. And the whole thing is like he pre-records his audio and then he'll mouth the words like he's making a music video. And I'm like, that, like, you just made a podcast, dude, but like you made it so highly edited and like so precise and just incredibly creative. And the thing that got me excited was you watch that video, it has like more than 1 million plays. So it's like people clearly want this creative stuff. The creative stuff that we want to make, they want it. And it on YouTube, it actually exists and it's thriving there. So then I was like, wait a minute. Like, no, hold on. Like we can exist. And in fact, YouTube as a platform is actually really incredible for independent creators in the audio space who just want, you know, to test out some waters. And the second thing is I want to give a shout out to Andrew Calloway, who's like an audio producer based in New York, is the producer of The Theory of Everything, and also did all the videos, edited the videos and conceptualized them with me for my anthology fiction show, You Feeling This? And his whole idea was like, I want to take the old school iTunes visualizers. Every time you click on a song, and it'd be like this cool, like, amorphous, like sort of visual, like sound frequency that's reacting to the music that you're playing. But he wanted to take it a step up and make it a bit more elaborate for every single piece. And You Feeling This is like I take 10 different creators. I give a very loose sort of concept, and they're independent creators that I just love. And normally they don't make audio fiction. I'm just curious what they would do in the space. So last season was fear and horror. And so I'm like, just make a horror piece. Like, I don't care, but do fiction. And, and we recorded in a really cool way. And so it's like really highly produced. And you're like, how the heck do you make this a visual thing? And, Andrew and I, when we were talking about it, like Andrew, he's like, I know how to do this.
He's awesome.
Yeah, and it lives there, and it's it's getting views, and it's finding its own audience online there, and it just makes me more excited to just be like, no, I think YouTube is honestly like a blessing for independent creators in audio.
I'm gonna take it another angle, just really quick. Sorry, because I come from YouTube, where I worked for a company that was in gaming. They were doing, it's called Game Grumps, and they do like retro gaming. But he started out as an animator. but he wasn't making it, the algorithm wasn't rewarding him being an animator. So he then chose to do Let's Play because it was quick entertainment. They could just kind of talk about the game. He could integrate the animation, but like it was the fastest thing. And now that he's kind of, they're huge. They're the third hugest gaming industry.
Wait, what's Let's Play? Is that like
Sorry.
what? Yeah,
Let's playing video games as you're talking.
Oh, okay, like Rad Brad or something where it's like they're playing the video game. Okay, got it.
But like they were pretty big. Like big comics would come on and like play with them, and he became really big. But now that this is kind of, it was almost like just helped elevate him to this place, and now he's able to do all these cool creative stuff that he wants to do. And there's a lot of, Addison Rae talks about this. I know this is so random, but Addison Rae talks about how she had to go sort of pop hot girl in order to do like experimental cool stuff. And I do think there's some genius to that, where it's like you have to play the game a little bit in kind of a gross way in order to get to do the fun stuff.
Well, I mean, your career is basically that. Like you have your Marvel hits, your like corporate clients, some maybe branded stuff.
Yeah.
And then you also have this like art practice that is, I don't know how many people actually have access to like your art practice as like in like as a business owner, you know. Like I'm thinking about two things. One, your Retracts show at Bob Baker with Phil Corbett. So James performed this piece, and the first like minute is James basically lip syncing himself. And then he like moves away from the mic,
like a puppet,
and the voiceover is still going, and it's like that's a really like ingenious approach to like audio and performance. And you have that, and then on the other side with You Feeling This, I think one especially, but like how you recorded people with microphones on their face, and like the actual setting that it took place, like making dinner and interacting in the kitchen. Like there's the work, and then there's how you get to the work. And I don't know if there's anything in that is worth like spelling out, but like, why?
Yeah. Okay. This is hitting on something, Stella, you said of like the audio book and audio fiction and how they just seem like they're the same. Because I felt that too. And I think, you know, when I worked on this show with Turner Classic Movies called The Plot Thickens. It's like a podcast. And one of the seasons they covered is John Ford. I didn't know too much about this director, but like, but it clicked with me when we're making the show. Where John Ford, he was this director from a few decades ago who was making westerns, and probably the most prominent western filmmaker who made like cowboy films, and he was the first filmmaker to go out of the backlot and into the actual world. And so he would film a lot of his stuff at this place called Monument Valley. And so his movies like The Searchers or things like that, like look grandiose, and the colors are vibrant, and it looks so different than everyone else because you could tell that everyone else was shooting on a backlot. And I feel like with audio fiction, and even now, it feels like everyone is using a backlot or a green screen. And I can't engage as much with that technique. And so I just was like, I want to get us out of the studio and kind of use approaches that film is doing, where you're now watching, like you could watch something that's like you know, Issa Rae's Insecure or Euphoria, but it's like so immersive. Like they're not like these they're not grandiose stories, but I think a lot of the times it's because you're taking people outside of a set and you're putting them in a place. You're in it. Yeah. And you feel it. A lot of Richard Linklater movies are like that. They're so quiet, but like you're in the environment. So that's kind of my thing, is like I just wanted to like to see if this technique would work, of just let's remove these like Shure microphones and like let's use like lav mics that are right here. That was a technique that our production sound mixer Daniel Martinez was thinking about, and like our whole thing was like we wanted to use mics like cameras. So you know and that was kind of for me. I was like, everything feels so stagnant when I'm listening to audio. I want there to be perspective. Like, why does film only get to have the white shots or the close-up shots or the tracking shots? Like,
so interesting.
Why can't audio have that same approach? And so if you use different microphones for different sort of techniques or different sort of feelings, or that's the ultimate goal, right? Is like the technique is the feeling that you're trying to get at. So so for the last couple seasons, it was me Daniel Martinez, our production sound mixer, and then also Diego Perez, our sound designer and kind of director of sound. They both came from like film world or still, work in film. Daniel Martinez did, A24's Maxine, production sound mixing for that. Diego Perez was his work was nominated for an Oscar for The Batman, and he won an Emmy for The Penguin. They don't fuck around. And that's the kind of people I want to work with. They're like people who do not fuck around, who want to push the boundaries, who are kind of like tired of the status quo and just like want to do something that like breaks the mold. So I don't know. I've always been a rule breaker, and maybe that's kind of what draws me to that stuff.
I have so many questions, but
fire them off.
Yeah.
So what? Oh God, where do I start? Do you say no to projects?
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, I think maybe to my detriment, I do.
I get that. I get that from you.
I feel bad about, not bad, but it's like, I feel blessed that I'm able to say no.
Totally.
I'm in a place, but sometimes, for me, it's like, I think it's just also my like high anxiety where people will say, no, you're right for the project. And I go, if you bring me on, I think you're not going to get what you think you're going to get.
Yes.
So that's a lot of times why I do say no.
Yeah. Have you guys seen the movie Adaptation? To me, it's it's explaining exactly that.
Charlie Kaufman. Yeah.
Where it's like, because that happened to me, like I was saying, a wellness podcast came to me and I was like, I don't know how to make this interesting at all. And it was like a big celebrity. And yeah, it's like, it's because you care about the art and the thing, and then you kind of come off a bit like, okay, like you won't just, but it's like, it won't be good. Like it won't be good if you want me producing it, it's not going to be what you're trying to get out of it, like, which is like people buying your wellness stuff or whatever. And it's tough because there is an integration, and you seem like a purist, which is why it's good that you're here.
Yeah, to my detriment, maybe. I feel like
same.
Sometimes I'm like, I wish I wouldn't care as much. But is that kind of why you feel like you say that like it's not going to be good, because in your mind you're like, I'm going to fuck it up?
I don't think it's going to be what they want. We have to be on the same page about what the end result is going to be. Yeah. And I have a different idea of the route to get there, if that makes sense.
Oh, that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I 100% see you on that.
Maybe this gets us to the moment where we can talk a little bit about our industry.
Sure.
I think one thing that we've been talking about, and we'll probably continue to talk about over the course of this podcast, is how different and fragmented our industry is, and how my answer of like what a podcast is last episode was, it's like a change shifter. Shapeshifter, like it's one thing for one person, then it's completely different.
You actually said it was flubber, is what you
flubber. I started with flubber.
Tell me more.
A little bit of a Loki, you know. But like the industry, I think we all have different straw men that we've propped up, and we're arguing with those straw men, and then the conversations are just different for everybody. And when I say industry, I'm thinking of like LinkedIn, like LinkedIn podcast industry conversations. I feel like thriving there.
You're like a LinkedIn influencer.
But it's weird to like see these conversations, and people have like opinions about OpenAI. I bought this like 70,000 views an episode for like $200 million, and like this is great for the creator economy. And it's like
people are saying that.
Yeah, there's a few people.
See, that's why I stay off LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But like we have like these people that think that they are at the center of what podcasting is, and I feel like we
call them thought leaders.
They're so far removed from the proximity of culture and like even business, and that's why I think our industry will ultimately fail, is because we have
I didn't think it was going there.
No, but we have these people who have no range.
Yeah.
They have zero range, zero creative expression, no ability to connect with people who matter, and are just leasing land until they get fired or go to another job. And that's just the bubble that that's the air that we breathe in podcasting. So hopefully we, like, I don't know, our group, and I think the community that we're a part of can go in a different direction. I don't know necessarily where, but I like the idea of us having multiple industries and saying like, actually over there, that's not us.
I have to say this, even though it feels dated now, but I think a podcast is it's oh God, I'm trying not to use the word content, but it's entertainment for the ears. It's audio entertainment. That's what I feel like a podcast is. And the reason, I mean, I feel like any definition, like the point of it is to create any like barriers, right? Because it can't be a catch-all. Because right now it's being treated as such. Right now, I'll say right now it feels like a lot of prominent production houses and companies who used to make audio only content want to make a very specific type of show, which is a video podcast where it's mainly interviews.
Yeah.
And that feels like when you say
exactly what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Like this. Yeah. No, but I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah. We
but
don't either.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Yeah. No, and like because I was at a party literally this past week, and I'm not ashamed to be like, oh, I make podcasts, and immediately people will cringe. Yeah, the person I was talking to, like, they cringe. They're like, oh, it's it used to be really embarrassing to say that. And I was like, oh, why is that? I'm like, because it's like two people talking, but like, I'm starting to realize everyone listens to that kind of stuff. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's what you think. And I'm like, yeah. And honestly, like, I can't be mad. Truthfully, like that feels like what the definition is, because at the end of the day, as creators, and I obviously we've been through a lot, and like indie creators who make more highly produced stuff, but to me it kind of lights a fire into my butt to be like, all right, I need to make some shit that like really at least gets out there, and it makes people question what a podcast is, because currently the definition is like very much people talking in mics and you film it. And the thing that makes this different than a talk show is literally that the mic is displayed, whereas a talk show there's not.
What's interesting about I think podcast audiences is that they're so trainable, and we've essentially trained the audience over the last 3 or 4 years to have that opinion about what a podcast is.
Yeah, it's been like that, right? Because when podcasting first started, and before Gimlet or Pineapple Street or these like boutique shops that made a specific kind of podcast, people thought a podcast as like Comedy Bang Bang and Joe Rogan, like comedy shows or like interview shows. It wasn't.
That's my world. Cringe.
Which is no. I mean, I listen to that stuff. I love Freedom. I love that. But I started to see a shift when Serial was made, and then a lot of shows similar to Serial started to be created, and in that like they were more highly produced and a long form story that was told over multiple episodes. And then suddenly people shifted their idea of what podcasting was, where SNL was making skits about Serial and making fun of Serial, or like Brian Reed would be on like late night television talking about S-Town, and like that. Then all of a sudden, people's idea of podcasting was more similar to what like a This American Life story was. And now that it's shifted back to what people thought it was pre-Serial. So like, to your point, I do think that it's like, I'm not scared, because I'm like, podcasting has always shifted in people's minds of what they thought it was. We're just in a very specific type of era, but I don't think that everything is permanent.
What is the era?
Oh, it's back to like celebrities talking to people on a microphone.
Okay.
Truthfully, like that felt like the era before Serial came, and I think that's currently the era that we're at now. I mean, the fact that like you have Amy Poehler winning Golden Globe award, like that, it's a lot of visibility, and I feel like probably I have to imagine a lot of companies are now trying to find their next good hang. So
not gonna happen. I always say this. I feel like, because I dealt with a lot of celebrities, and I kind of rolled my eyes whenever a celebrity was coming in, because they were so press trained, and I'd be like, this is just not going to be a good interview. It's going to be like a press junket. But Amy Poehler is likable, authentic, and the people who come are genuinely happy to be there. Yeah. So I do think that she's sort of unique outside of this like celebrity podcast thing. I also think it's interesting that when she won the Golden Globe, people were mad, but they weren't that mad.
Yeah.
They could have been. How did you feel about it?
Oh, I mean, I knew that was definitely going to happen, right? Because didn't they have a Kalshi like stat of here, people are betting this is like the favorite to win, but I wasn't surprised at all.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, click the link for our vote on our
yeah, right.
Poly
What are they betting on?
I don't know. Will we get to episode 10?
Yeah, exactly. Who says podcast the most? No, I don't know.
Oh no, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna pod fade.
Yeah.
So hard.
But no, in terms of feelings, I didn't feel any sort of way. I mean, I think the thing for me is that it's always been hard for me to explain what my job was. At least now people, when you say podcast and they might have a certain idea of what it is, you don't have to explain like, well, it's like people talking, or like, it's just audio only, or whatever it may be. Like, they have a general idea, and that's good. And I think
that's very good, because it used to be like not understanding. I mean, I used to work for a YouTube channel, and I pretended that I worked for YouTube because it was so I couldn't explain what I did. Oh, so it's like you have to give people like certain things. And I remember Julia Louis-Dreyfus was on What the Fuck, and she was like, what the fuck is this thing? And then she had her own in like 2 years. That to me is so beautiful, and what this industry is. It's like we all come to it with confusion and almost disdain, and then you realize that it's part of culture now.
Despite all that, it does seem, compared to last year, I do feel like there's more optimism this year than there was last year.
Yeah.
Or maybe in years past, like things like Audio Flux and Written in the Air and Signal Hill, and you have these like audio magazines, and like just like there's more room to be, all right, the train has passed us.
Yeah.
Fuck the train.
Yeah.
We don't want to be on that train anyway.
Yeah. 100%. And to both of your sentiments here, like, I think honestly for me, the reason why I feel chill about it, because I wasn't chill about it before, is because I've accepted the idea that the kind of audio stories that I like to make and to tell, the people who have money, they're just not interested in giving you money for it, right? And I can be mad or upset all I want, but I'm not the one with the money. That they're the ones with the money. And like, for me, it's just kind of like, okay, but are they They're not stopping podcast production entirely. Like, this stuff still exists. People are still making this stuff. And for me, I'm like, okay, well, what is it that I crave? Because right now, I can't do the thing that I love, make the stories I love, and make money off of that. So I can't do that anymore, or at least the opportunities are slim. But I still can make money doing this sort of stuff. So once I'd like switched my mindset of like the art that I'm making isn't like sustaining my lifestyle, like, and it doesn't have to. I just was like, all right, cool. All right, fine. I accept this.
Wow. So interesting. I feel like that's the same with a lot of art, though.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I always say, I know you're a good artist, or I know you have good intentions with art if you don't have a lot of money. Like, because exactly what you're talking about, which is like, and then you get lucky enough that somebody with a lot of money recognizes you or finds you. But everybody who I know is a great artist has that same mentality that you're talking about. And you just kind of at some point have to be like, whatever.
Yeah, and like, to me, it's just like, okay, like the fact that I'm not going to make money off of the art that I love making, is that going to lessen my passion for it? And when the answer was no, I was like, all right, fine. Now I'm just brain pivot. Like, what exactly do I need? It's like, okay, if I need to make a living, like, I can still make podcasts. It's just not going to be the stuff that like is like near and dear to my heart. And that's not to say like the stuff that I'm making currently for people is not near and dear to my heart. It is.
Right.
But it doesn't have to be my passion project anymore. And I think the other thing that made me so accepting of this idea, because, like, I also don't want to make stuff and it goes nowhere and no one hears it. Like, that's also really painful. Yeah. But then I need examples of who is thriving and making their stuff low key, and not having this industry support. And for me, it was when I discovered this artist, the singer-songwriter Cindy Lee. They released an album, Diamond Jubilee, last year, and it's like a double album. It's like almost 2 hours long. But it's incredible front to back. They initially just released the album on Bandcamp and their website. and then eventually they put it up on YouTube, not on Spotify, not on Apple, not on any of the streaming services. And that album made all the best of lists. So the exposure was there. You go on that YouTube link, it's like millions of plays of listening on a 2-hour album. And that YouTube link, it's just the album art. There's no visual component to it other than like, we just need something up there so it can live on the platform. And it's like seeing examples like that, I'm like, oh, you can do highly produced audio. You don't need to be flashy on YouTube. You could put it up. There's an audience for it. You don't even have to be on all these platforms like Spotify and Apple or all that stuff and still get exposure, you know? So it was just seeing someone else do it. And that gave me the confidence and at least optimism of like independent creators do not need these big corporations to fund their art. They don't. The reason why we were attracted to podcasting was that it was an affordable way and an easy opportunity to make something that was like in your mind. You're like, I want to make this thing in my mind, but I actually can go out into the world and do it. It's affordable, and that's the thing that everyone should lean into. You don't need like a 6-figure budget to make the thing that you want to make.
I guess my argument, yes, absolutely, goes back to like that's what YouTubers have been doing since like before 2010. Yeah. And again, we all laughed and were like, what are they doing? But they're all about creating their own independent world and creating what they want when they want. No gatekeeping, no agents, no bullshit. Like they just can completely do what they want, and they've been doing it kind of watching all of us, like Markiplier, a great example, who is a YouTuber. He just came out with that movie,
the horror film that he completely
funded, I think, himself, and still nothing has changed.
Yeah. And his audience was like arguing for showings at all their local theaters.
Yeah, can you imagine? Yeah. And still no one is like, but you're absolutely right. That's exactly the principle of every YouTuber I've met, where it's like kind of fuck the system, fuck the man, like let's just do our own thing. And
why are those creator DNAs different, the like podcaster and the YouTuber?
Oh, that's a great question.
You don't think podcasters have this fuck the system mentality? I'm so curious.
My sense of podcasters is they want to see the thing semi-funded or semi-propped up before they like commit.
Yeah.
Maybe less so now, but like, yeah, for sure, it's like, let me shop this around. Let me make a pitch deck. Let me see who I can get on a project. Like wait and see versus do and find out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to have an oversimplified answer in that the thing that I feel like has been a big roadblock for podcasting is discoverability, right? There's like podcasters, like let's compare it to I'm going to say like film and TV. For indie creators in those spaces, the way that they can get exposure one way is to go to film festivals, submit your work at a film festival. Who knows who's going to be there? And then potentially your work can be seen, and then the money that you put could lead to another opportunity for something else. And podcasting, while we do have Tribeca, and I think Davey is doing an incredible job with everything and the curation there, it's like we can't just rely on Davey.
I thought you guys were going to Cannes this year.
Is there Cannes
now?
Just
like South by and Cannes and like these like the industry people, the LinkedIn people are kind of propping up these like satellite events at these like larger like tech and film conferences and festivals and saying podcasting is important too, but they're not facilitating the actual exchange of the cultural artifacts that podcasting is exporting. Whereas like Tribeca is like they're making things inside of the film festival that's audio only and advancing that craft. But
and Tribeca feels like one of the only sort of institutions where it's like an open entry sort of anyone, like it's an even chance. But I feel like with film and TV, there's just so many of those sort of institutions. And then at the end of the year comes like award season. So a lot of these independent works get another chance of exposure. Like we just don't have that cycle. And then two, if you're looking at YouTubers, the thing that they're always talking about is the algorithm, right? And it's like you put something up there, and if it gets into the right sort of feed or algorithm, like you can all of a sudden sort of ride that wave, and that helps with discoverability. And so when a podcaster is like, I want to release something before the YouTube era that really came in, you would release your RSS feed, but like there, like unless you got on like the Apple carousel or the
99
Spotify
PI, you know, like get my story on.
Yeah. That's interesting because that was my whole, like, when I started working in podcasting, I of course looked at it from the marketing point of view.
Yeah.
And I was like, we have to make clips every day. And we have to make one of them will hit. We're throwing as much as we can on the wall and then seeing what sticks. And then the show Trash Tuesday, which is the show I worked on, it blew up and people thought that it was much bigger than it was because it was sort of a smoke and mirrors where I was like, it looks huge and the marketing is huge and everyone is like, oh, it must be big. But then the listenership wasn't as high as you would assume it was. So there is a bit like, I just find that interesting in terms of like sticking out, where it's like, that was like my main goal going in, and I feel kind of guilty about it now. Because
you feel guilty about it.
Well, like, not guilty, but just like I feel like I was sort of diluting the art a little bit. Like listening to you, you're such a purist, and like I was like, I'm gonna make like Taylor Swift clips because I know Taylor Swift clips will be rewarded in the algorithm. By the way, always, if you ever want to get your podcast, you talk about Taylor Swift on the week that she puts something out or she gets engaged to Travis Kelce, it will go viral. But like whatever it is, like you start to learn these little tricks, and you do feel like the Mr. Beast YouTube of it all, where you're like kind of figuring out the system, and it's less about the art and more about like what's going to do well or what is going to get the most hits, good or bad.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of the like Kardashian mentality and any of that. And it's, I don't know, it just makes me feel a certain type of way because that's how I approached it.
I do feel like podcasting as an industry, it's now known as like there's huge players involved. You know, Netflix is in it, Spotify's in it. Money's just intertwined in this, and it's going to be tough because like, you know, I still view this as an art form and one in which that can be as impactful, as moving, as inspiring, and as like and changing as any other, you know, like great film or an amazing book or incredible album. And you know, there to hit on all these things of like, yeah, there's a deep fear that's happening, I think, within creators who think like that, who view audio as like, I can make something as moving as other great art forms, but it's just the people with money don't want to give me anything because they don't want to, because they're looking at this being like, you can't release 28 episodes a year. You can't make something that's going to just have a quick turnaround and high engagement. And so for me, obviously like it's a gut punch, but at the same time, you know, I like when we're seeing the pivot to video and we're seeing YouTube step in this space, I do get excited because I do see like there's this avenue that wasn't quite there before. And this is not a knock on like Apple or Spotify or any of those audio streaming services. It's just that YouTube has like a built-in system to actually get more exposure for independent creators, which is something that the industry podcasting desperately needs. And just to go back on the thing of you're saying, like I forgot who said it, of like, why is it that YouTubers are like, fuck it, I'm going to make it myself, and podcasters like, I need money. And it's like, it's just because podcasting didn't have a system where it's like, an independent creator can spend a shit ton of time, their own money on something and release it out in the world. But because we just don't have a system to facilitate the word being spread, it's tough to motivate yourself to want to make that thing.
I also think there needs to be a level of fearlessness that I think a lot of people in podcasting don't necessarily have. I hate to say that, and as the outsider, I can say this where it's like, and especially growing up with Hug Radio, it's like everything is like, you're an intellectual, you go to this school, you go to that school, you have to have a journalism degree, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, that's what I'm talking about, is there's a lack of fearlessness where the YouTubers that I know literally were just like, fuck it, I'm just going to go and do this and see what happens and see what works. And I don't really care if I look like a fool. Yeah. And I just don't think that needs to exist more, because I think great things would come out of it, but I think people are too fearful.
I love that take. I love that. I just 100% agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, to maybe even before YouTube was purchased by Google, like to their credit, like they're like, we have to care about the creator's success. And like Apple doesn't care about the creator's success. Like from a technology perspective. Like Spotify doesn't really care about the creator's success.
Doesn't care. I mean, I think Spotify might be the worst.
But like, can we like build a thing that helps that discoverability issue, that integrates the technology that we have, which is RSS? No, they have none of these people have invested in functionally how, like, why isn't there a way for me to like in the RSS have a way to receive payments and for that to be accepted across all of these apps? Like fundamentally, like, no, that doesn't exist. I have to click a link in the show notes and hope people get there.
I also want to go back really quickly and say that people aren't really giving money out for video podcasting either. Like, I said this on the previous episode, but I had a literal billionaire who wanted to do a podcast about billionaires, and she didn't want to pay. And so it's
Not
like,
surprised.
well, obviously, it was like nobody wants to pay ever. And I kind of realized, I was like, oh, people get rich because they just don't ever pay for anything. But I think it's still kind of strange for people to put out money for like high production on things across the board for podcasting. Yeah. I think audio is probably harder, but I just wanted to, like, I would have so many meetings with so many people and they didn't want to pay any money, partially because they always were sold on the idea that podcasting was scrappy and didn't cost anything. Yeah.
Ding,
Whoever
ding, ding.
started that fucking rumor, I want to kill them. Because I'm like, it's not like that. It's not easy. Like, I have people I know who are like, I was just thinking about starting a podcast. It's like, no, like, it isn't this scrappy thing anymore. Like, especially now, drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Looking to land the plane here, I do want to like say, let's have less webinars as podcasts, like Zoom podcasts. The Zoom podcast needs to like,
dude, every time I met somebody,
just upload audio and call it a day.
Yeah.
Like,
every time someone was like, well, I have Zoom, I'd be like, I'm not interested. I would tell my agent that. I think Zoom podcasts are a joke. I'll say it.
It's embarrassing. It's cringe. Just don't do it.
Do it in person.
Use it for social clips, maybe. Like, use the video if you have to, but like that form factor is not good for anyone.
The clips, though, don't, as the clip person, they don't
hit.
They don't hit, like, even close.
If you have a Zoom podcast now, end it.
Yes.
And just do audio.
Audio, yeah.
Because that's what you're doing.
You'll save the premium Zoom cost monthly.
Yeah. That's my so we can go around if you have a message either to the LinkedIn people or to the like your like crew, your like audio crew. I'm like, a part of me also wonders, like, with fewer jobs and less of a middle tier of like worker that's like engaged with like the next crop of like, or the next pool of audio makers, like, I do wonder if that pool will expand. Like, I don't know if you get hit up for like mentorship as much as you used to, but
yeah, I mean, as far as like people who want to make more highly produced audio stuff, I do, you know, I actually go and talk to classes, you know, of like audio, you know, people who are studying audio journalism, and I would feel like within those classes, those are the classes that I'm like, okay, in my mind, they would be the ones who are the most interested in like making the highly produced audio stuff. But that's not really true. So,
what do they want? They want YouTube? They want video?
Yeah.
They want social media?
I think it's like it's more of interview based and social media based, and it kills me a bit because it is true where I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Like, it's hard because I like, from my experience, there's that, but at the same time, I've also been introduced to audio creators that are just like doing the most incredible stuff, and I just had no idea that, you know, that there were still people who were like, no, I'm audio first, and I believe in this, you know, and those producers, to me, it's just there's that sort of fuck it, I don't care sort of mentality that they bring, and it just gets me so excited because it's like, you know, I don't want to see that sort of form of audio disappear. I don't want it to be only one certain thing, and hopefully there are systems in place that like allow that community to thrive.
Radio still, I mean, I don't think it's going anywhere, especially if we're walking around, commuting. I can't imagine it. I feel like it'll always, I say that, I don't know. It's like concerts. Like, I feel like those are never going away because they supply us something. I think the same thing with audio.
You're talking about like human experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
What's that? A human experience.
No, I know. I haven't gone to a concert. I don't even know one, but.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, in terms of like just a hot take,
a closing take.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say that this whole time I've been like championing like indie creators. Like, you don't need the big studios at the moment to do your own thing. Like, do the YouTuber mentality. Fuck it, and like, I'm gonna make my own thing. I don't care. At the same time, the thing that I do want to see changed is seeing a lot more people who are in control of making decisions actually like have a bit more experience in this space and have a bit more knowledge of what audio stories actually are, as opposed to just being a talk show. Because we're seeing, you know, for me, the decisions that I'm seeing that are made, or like the shows that are being greenlit, it all does come from the people up top. And like
less suits. I said this last time.
Yeah, yeah, and I've taken a lot of those meetings. I've met with a lot of those people.
Yeah.
And it does shock me a lot of times with their lack of knowledge of like, wait a minute, you've never heard Floodlines before? Like, you've never heard some of these like prominent shows. And like, when I'll be using words like documentary or fiction or interview shows, they're confused.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you talking about? And I'm just like, I'm not surprised that like our industry is where it's at, simply because you don't have people who have actually been producers, who have been in the thick of it, now leading this industry and making the decisions for us.
Yeah, and whenever you see like a press release on like an acquisition or a show launch, and you're like, oh, they were just copying something from 2 years ago, and they're so far behind from the moment where that show concept actually would resonate.
I would just like to say that I know Wendy's or McDonald's or Burger King is going to be doing Brianna chicken fry, some version of it, in 2 to 3 years. I'm calling it right now, where they have celebrities on eating their food, and it's going to be a ripoff. And then none of them have ever heard of that, and they're like, "This is a great way. It's going to be like Hot Ones, but for burgers, or like it's going to be a copy of all of those."
You're on the burger beat.
I mean, because the CEOs are showing up everywhere. Because the CEOs are starting to pop up, and I'm like, why do we care about the CEOs? And Wendy's just got canceled, thank God. But I'm just, because I know when corporations start entering the chat, it's going to get cringe, and they're going to be stealing shit from everybody and stealing things that have been around forever, and they need to be called out. I'm never going to work again.
Well, James, thank you for joining us.
Thanks so much, guys. This is great.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to This Is TV Now, a new podcast from Good Tape Magazine. Today's episode was engineered by Thomas Willett and both mixed and edited by Fred Munoz for Sounds Visual Studio. The artwork was designed by Sammy Whitwer for Good Tape Studio, with photography by Maggie Shannon. Our theme song is Knew Me Win by Brian B. Stray. And if you're following us on social media, at This Is TV Now on all platforms, our clips were designed by Andrew Calloway. That's it for today. See you next time.